Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review. My name is Christopher Peter, and I am the political economist behind the original content you experience on this podcast. My focus is to provide analytical, common-sense commentary on salient current events that impact our public policy, our economic outcomes, and our society. Also, my goal is to advocate for economic freedom by highlighting opportunities for people to maximize their outcomes by making decisions and taking actions that improve their value creation. While I do not offer financial advice, I do shed light on the brands, organizations, and industries that make our society and world function and ones that enhance our quality of life. If you are looking for financial advice, please reach out to a certified professional that can create a customized plan to your personal situation. In this special episode, you experience 3 of my featured brand reviews, my commentary on one of my personal favorite food companies in Campbell Soup, my discussion on sports news leader in ESPN and how to potentially compete with them, and finally, my commentary on Citibank, which continues to try to improve the customer experience, but has not seemed to make much headway recently if I must say so myself. This is a sentiment supplemental to what I actually included in the original review. Without any further delay, please enjoy the following reviews. Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review. My name is Christopher Peter and I am the political economist, investor, and podcaster behind the original content you will experience here. As a political economist, I aim to find ideas that can create the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. I review salient current events and discuss the impact these events have on our public policy, our economic outcomes, and our overall society and what is the optimal approach. Here on this channel you will experience my daily content discussing headlines and happenings in sports. On my podcast channel, you can experience my weekly podcast episodes featuring advocacy, policy discussions, and weekly business and industry review. Without any further delay, let us start today's topic. Now, let us move on to our next subject. Like many Americans, I grew up eating tomato soup made by Campbell Soup, headquartered in my home state of New Jersey. For me, a grilled cheese sandwich is not the same without the side of a hot bowl of tomato soup. Maybe you are not as sentimental about the brand. But I have seen the great things they do for communities and their service to society. They have helped many education organizations that I have supported over the years, and they are as socially responsible as you will find in corporate America. But America's soup company's performance results have not embodied the same warm and soothing feelings you get when enjoying their products. In fact, there are some people who are calling for the iconic company to put the entire organization up for sale. I get the need for investors to try to create value for their pooled assets. But I think we need to determine whether appeasing momentary greed is better than restoring the brand's performance for a longer-term perspective. Emotions and investing do not mix. But we should also realize the iconic brands are not easily created, so why not preserve something that has established value if possible? Much of the work of the current board is being reported to be scaling down the actions of the past. Refocusing the organization on the American market after efforts to go global with acquisitions of foreign brands that cost too much in comparison to the value attained. No investor wants to fund investments that cost too much and net too little returns. That is understandable. And there is great difficulty in managing global brands where you are not greatly experienced in that particular market. Purchasing a brand and not truly understanding why that is popular may create costly marketing challenges. The more appropriate course of action may be to focus on markets that you already know and grow from there, which seems to be the current focus. In my mind, Campbell's will always be a tomato company first, soup company second, and food company third. I believe the recent acquisition of Rao's owner Savo's brands is a step in the right direction. Investing in what it does best. Adding a product line to strengthen its presence in tomato products. To be honest, I have not been the biggest fan of its Prego brand. But Rao's is a great product line. I do not think it will poach sales from the Prego line. So in theory both could grow together with their own space in the sauce market. At one time, Rao's soup products were competing against the Campbell's dominant lineup. But now it can be a complementary line for the Campbell's company. I think the Rao's line could be used to target Progresso customers. There are times where I do think activist investors create value for both their investor pool and the organization as a whole. But sometimes they may be too quick to try to scavenge when they might want to create value instead. I think the Campbell's brand is one that should be protected and value created from positioning its products in distinct areas of the consumer experience and grow in popularity beyond just North America. I agree that the acquisition of Fresh Foods and Biscuits was a mistake and rightfully divested from. I think it is heading in the right direction. The recent performance shows that as well. It slightly outperformed recent expectations. Thank you for experiencing this special content on the Christopher Peter Review. Please continue to visit daily for more content. Thank you and talk to you tomorrow. Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review, your source of common sense commentary on salient current events. The hardest thing to do in the marketplace is disrupt an industry and change the long-time pecking order. Some market leaders are heavily entrenched in the leadership position because of the structure of competition, lack of quality alternatives, or simply strong connection with consumers and their preference. Still, it is possible to change the dynamics of an industry with a better offering, a more convenient delivery, or more affordable yet still similar quality. Many mature markets that reflect the rule of three may be completely disrupted by new players, or one of the existing competitors finding a new way to the top. As one might imagine, the path will definitely not be easy. In this podcast episode, I'm going to discuss this topic by showing how one could find points of competition with a market leader who is entrenched in their respective market. Personally, I am a fan of this brand. But like any market leader, there is room for competition. Not much, but some. The focus for discussion will be the worldwide leader in sports, being the Disney-owned and operated sports media giant ESPN, which is the clear-cut leader in the market for sports news, sports journalism, and coverage of the major sports leagues in America. So what is the good, the bad, and everything in between regarding the worldwide leader in sports? Let us begin this special episode with Jennifer providing the perspective of this conversation.
For quite some time in American history, Sears was the leading retailer in the land, with its highly popular catalog, and its retail stores that did something few retailers did during its heyday. It provided an experience for not just the mother, who typically did the household shopping in this period, but for the whole family. A vast tool section for the father to peruse while mother and children are trying on clothes. But the once giant leading retailer in America was not too perceptive to competitive forces. Not that it did not see them popping up, but did not respond to them faster. As a result, they lost their market position during the discount mass retail phase, and sent into extinction with the transition to online shopping. Market leaders can fall if they are not able to adapt to market changes, or not on the cutting edge of industry innovation. New entrants find their footing when they offer an innovative product or delivery that better meets the needs or cost expectations of the consumer. How the market leader responds, or if it can respond, makes all the difference. The subject of our episode today is the Walt Disney Corporation, an entertainment and media giant, owning and operating many leading or co-leading brands. The portfolio includes not only ESPN, but also the ABC family of networks, Disney+, Hulu, and a host of other networks, as well as the highly popular theme parks. For sports content, the top network in the market is ESPN, the clear market leader for sports commentary, sports news on both the networks and website, and breadth of broadcasts, being home to Monday Night Football, Sunday Night and Wednesday Night Baseball, hockey, basketball, tennis, golf, and other events. Aside from its broadcasts of games and other sporting events, it creates and distributes sports commentary shows to fill the time when sports are not taking place, or when they do not own the broadcast rights. The sports network is enjoying recent ratings boosts for the past couple quarters, experiencing record ratings for many of its top daytime shows, including Get Up, First Take, and The Pat McAfee Show, which is their licensed simulcast. Times are good for the portfolio of networks from a ratings performance standpoint, but ESPN operates in a changing media market as streamers shifted how people enjoy content. And there are questions of how well it can make the transition given television networks still rely heavily on broadcasting of live events, primarily sports content. From a corporate perspective, Disney has experienced an up-and-down performance overall, leading it to return formerly retired Bob Iger to his former role in leading the conglomerate. As a major brand and former cash cow, how it handles the sports properties is a key focus. There are some dissatisfied with its overall performance against expectations for streaming and sports. Its ESPN Plus streaming service seems headed for some form of a refresh, potentially a complete rebrand or replacement with a standalone service. There are many competitors in the sports media space. The most similar competitor to ESPN is Fox Sports, which offers competing commentary content, coverage of sports events, and newsworthy articles on their website. But the ratings gap is pretty significant. The availability for both ESPN networks and the FS1 and others is relatively the same now. Disney did enjoy a lead for a while, but now it seems like the cable companies still in existence will give you both options in your package. But it also must compete indirectly with a host sports content producers, who offer more insightful content, but from a lesser or more regional platform. Many former talent and other high-profile sports figures have found large followings with their own content or production companies. Although widely popular, ESPN faces the same kind of leader fatigue people tend to have with any market leader, where they obsess over the flaws rather than appreciating what they like. To this point, the flaws have not provided an opportunity, but some may hold out hope. So, from a high-level perspective, we are going to see what makes ESPN special, what are some of their weaknesses, and what are opportunities for their competitors. This is not because of any angst against the network, just an exercise, showing how one may look at any market leader and find a way to compete with and challenge its dominance.
Many of us sports fans grew up watching SportsCenter, or listening to Mike and Mike in the morning. For 2 decades Mike and Mike ruled the morning commutes, and SportsCenter greeted you when you got home from work and just before you went to bed. There were some SportsCenter anchors who just made sports highlights sound more than just a retelling of an event, some whose special style of calling a highlight made the event that you witnessed firsthand stand out more than it really did. How many times did you watch a game and waited to see where it landed on the SportsCenter Top 10? Waited to see how personalities like the late Stuart Scott would call it. There are many avenues to find out what happened during a game. It is the people that make you determine what source you will consistently rely on. ESPN's magic formula is the ability to create personalities that deliver a unique experience to its audience. Whether it was SportsCenter, Baseball Tonight, NFL Live, or Outside the Lines, the personalities of the journalists connected with the audience in an authentic manner. ESPN continues to understand the value of having great personalities by featuring them throughout the day and on the radio network. Now, Mike Greenberg wakes you up with his morning show, Get Up, although many of us are already awake. While it is not the same for me as Mike and Mike, there is nothing better in the morning than watching Greeny react to the predictable letdowns that Jets provide their fanbase, other than a couple hours later watching Stephen A. Smith troll Cowboy fans after a loss. Now, they added on to the mix with the licensing agreement that brought Pat McAfee to the network, showing a simulcast of his popular show every noon, with the last hour still exclusive to his YouTube channel. A former all-pro punter and cast of personalities and other athletes providing a player perspective on the world of sports. Their shows continue to strive in terms of ratings, even considering the challenges with cord cutting and increased competition from non-television sources. The personalities still connect with audiences and engage with the mass of sports fans. They have a good stable of sports personalities and contributors that can deliver results for the media giant. Stephen A. Smith, Mike Greenberg, Pat McAfee, Brian Windhorst, and others are this generation's Stuart Scott, Dan Patrick, and pre-crazy Keith Alberman. Dan Patrick still has a very good show now on NBC Sports. Personalities made the network, continue to make the network, and they are effectively padding their talent with contributors and former athletes that add to the product, with insight from their experience and knowledge of the game. The use of engaging personalities is not unique to ESPN. Other sports media companies use it, and it was a practice well before the network came to exist. But the way it builds the brands and personalities is unique, and the broadcast quality to maximize the effect and impact of their content keeps the viewers and readers coming. Fox Sports has its own competing lineup. Craig Carton competes directly with Greenberg, Skip Bayless with Stephen A., his former partner on First Take, Colin Cowherd with Pat McAfee. Carton is better on the radio than on television. Skip's unlikability is keeping viewers away. Fox Sports' only assets really are Cowherd, First Things First, and Speak, which are all growing. But the network will need to do a bit more in its marketing to get the public to know them and connect. ESPN does not have that problem. The market knows their stars, what they offer, and what their drawbacks are. There is no perfect anything in this world. There are always areas where an organization is somewhat susceptible to competition. The question is, whether that area is one that can be exploited by others. Remember Star Wars. The Death Star was a highly formidable creation of the Empire, able to destroy planets, resistant to attacks by rebel forces. Conveniently, the Jedis were able to exploit an opening that proved catastrophic for the Death Star. Market leaders that fall from their perch usually have a weakness that they underestimate, or one that competitors have a competing offering and delivery that they do not effectively respond to. In addition to the aforementioned Sears example, Blockbuster is a perfect example of a company that was not fully able to compete with a competitor not bogged down with real estate investments and more nimble. So what is the area of opportunity that ESPN provides its competitors? Like many market leaders, there are conversations that exist highlighting things some consumers do not like. In the case of ESPN, the discourse generally revolves around the perception of the quality of content and messaging. First, the messaging. There is a perception that the popular sports network is using its platform to advance one-sided political agendas, deviating from its core market focus. As is the case with our society, people are growing more sensitive against political messaging and content not intended for political or social commentary. As athletes become more vocal about issues they deem important, the personalities are too interjecting their leanings into the content at times. Traditionally, we are used to our sports reporters and anchors just telling us what happened in an entertaining manner. That evolved to providing their opinions and punditry, which created room to expand the scope of the topic. Some may feel that social advocacy is always permissible, but there are challenges when you allow content to include political or social leanings, especially when the viewers are not expecting it or looking for it in that source. For instance, the Christopher Peter Review is a political economics publication. As expected, there will be political or social commentary on this site. That is expected because of the structure of this publication. There is no veiled or direct effort to hide that. ESPN markets itself as a worldwide leader in sports. Many people usually want to see the traditional fairness standard in their content from an established news organization. For instance, many leading newspapers or news broadcasters used to and still do to a lesser degree, provide opportunity for the opposing viewpoint to be heard as well. The standard of letting the audience decide, or at least, be exposed to it. Some may feel like the veiled intertwining of political leanings are being done in an inappropriate manner, especially when many of their messages are being proved to be factless or hysteria-driven. Not a good look for a network when its market is restricted for something it does not specialize in. Another area of concern is that journalism at the network is not being valued as it used to be. An industry publication that covers the happenings of the sports media market, personalities, and content join the pool of people raising concern over the network jettisoning veteran proven journalists in favor of what they deem as more entertainment-focused content. Many people in society are not really well adjusted to the reality that everything is a business. A business is able to provide paychecks and benefits to its employees, the goods and services to its customers, and returns to investors, providing the capital needed to operate by growing and becoming more efficient and effective. Therefore, any business will evolve to better align with the needs of their consumers and the predicted future needs for their respective market. ESPN chose the path that consumers prefer to hear from voices who actually played the sport they are watching rather than someone who wrote about what they watched. That is a strategic decision they made, one that the article called a transition from sports journalism to sports entertainment, pointing out they were not speaking of wrestling, but obviously a veiled reference to the signing of Pat McAfee at the same time as laying off staff. The industry may be moving that direction. Vox Media, not Fox? Vox with a V closed its sports podcast network, ending many high-quality sports journalist-driven shows that had loyal fan bases. So maybe viewers are not connecting with certain journalists as they once did. Even the journalists that remained at ESPN or moved on to other successful ventures are not just reporting what they see. They are becoming more character than reporting, which is a market-wide trend. The need for entertainment is important, and the networks that entertain will have larger audiences than those that just report facts. Unfortunately, the quality of reporting is something that is in question as well, as many times, sports fans rely on other sources for a more in-depth and accurate accounting of the situations surrounding their teams and the big industry stories. ESPN is an important platform for sports, but I think the market is very dynamic and offers space for competitive sources to exist that fans find more authoritative than the market leader. Personally, I do find myself listening to something on ESPN and then Googling to read more about it on another platform, but that is still a valuable contribution to the market. The biggest opportunity for a new market leader would be for Fox Sports to improve the quality of its sports commentary shows, the awareness of those shows, and the audience. Fox Sports has the same household base that ESPN, or maybe a slight advantage, but it does not have the same level of interest or viewership. Fox Sports has proven it has great ability to cover sports. Its broadcast of NFL football, in my opinion, is second to none. The quality of its broadcast of baseball, college football, soccer, and other sports is generally a must-watch television if you are a fan of the sport. The quality and style make the games the focus of the experience rather than the sideshows. Fox Sports has the quality to bring the missing journalistic feel that some in the industry feel is missing from the leader, and the clear focus on sports content without the distractions. Since there is a global leader in news already in its extended corporate family, if it can build off its successes in the afternoon and its overall broadcast quality, it has the best opportunity to offer a more competitive approach against ESPN. As I stated earlier, they have a good quality string of shows starting with their noon through the afternoon lineup. Their biggest area of weakness is their morning content. Their current lineup of The Craig Carton Show and Undisputed with Skip Bayless may need to be refreshed, moved to FS2, or simply outright replaced. I thought that bringing in a popular regional voice to host a national show was a stretch, and the ratings are consistently not up to par. Craig Carton's style of content is more suited for the radio than on television. It clearly is targeting the New York audience, which is the biggest market in America. Not sure that a regionally focused show would ever have the broad appeal to compete with a show like Get Up, and it is too petulant to really take it seriously as a source. Regional voices can be successful. There are some broadcasters, like Mike the Mad Dog Russo, who started off as a regional voice but has national appeal. Combining his past widely popular New York-based radio show with his depth of knowledge of sports beyond just his favorite teams, he is able to connect with national audiences to deliver an elevated discussion of sports. Fox Sports had a great idea of offering a competing debate show with an earlier start time, but Skip Bayless has lost some luster and appeal because his usual towing of the line of being edgy has turned out to become simply unlikable to most. He seemed to take a big hit following the perceived feud with Shannon Sharpe, who has thrived since the pair broke up. Although I am not a fan of many of Skip's takes, I did think he defines this style of show. He set the table for First Take when he battled an upcoming sports personality in Stephen A., and really made Undisputed a legitimate contender, but lost that delicate balance. And the rebrand is simply not going well. Maybe these shows are better suited for a different time slot, or move to its second network, FS2. I think for them to really make a legitimate run against ESPN, is to have a complete lineup of shows that really give the journalistic feel that is fleeing ESPN with its authentic style of making sports the center focus. One area of focus may be dipping into the highly popular podcast sports market or its own radio network to create content. I know it will feel like they are doing the Pat McAfee approach, but it can be done in a much different manner. Besides coverage of the games and notable moments, I do think that sports fans enjoy hearing great stories behind the feats. Interviews can help tell a story, but letting an all-time great simply talk about what made them a legend, the great moments of their career, and why their sport is special can be a great experience. Rather than the endless narrative-driven debates that shape the morning sports content, maybe a show that just allows the great performers a platform to talk freely about what went into their biggest achievements, great moments, and what shaped their careers. While interviews can help shape storytelling, I think many people do not really experience much in the rushed style of the modern-day interview, especially when the interview is tailored to the show's agenda. I think people are drawn to more than the greats' opinions of the modern-day athlete or their colleagues. I think they have great stories to tell, and why not afford the ability to tell them without constraints? There are gaps in the quality of sports content that can be filled with actual storytelling, rather than the simple format of perpetual debates or interviews, with a guided track toward what they want the person to say. Does every player have to goaded to say something negative about their opponents? Or can we hear about how they overcame their opponents, self-doubt, and adversity? A major challenge in the world of 24-hour news is running content that is relevant and entertaining for the audience, keeping them tuned in for an extended period of time. Identifying content that is desired, and presenting it in manners that are entertaining is important. So it is not surprising that a network like ESPN complements its sports content with a great deal of filler. More talk than sports when you consider all the hours available to broadcast meaningful content. So what would I do differently to provide a better experience for sports fans and viewers? How would better exploit weaknesses shown by ESPN? A leading sports network should focus on its core purpose. Sports? For a moment, let us assume that my network has the same level of broadcast rights. So that is 1 or 2 games a night, some form of a pre-game show and post-game show. All networks do that for live sports broadcasts, possibly a couple hours more set aside for replays. So out of a 24-hour day, 9 or 10 hours used on live and repeated action, leaving another 14? While it is common to just allow SportsCenter to repeat, and then commercials or repeat content to entertain the predictably smaller audiences while the East Coast sleeps, maybe do something different like broadcast a sporting event overseas, or cover the global world of sports for nations that are full into their day. I think the worldwide leader in sports should show a wide range of sports. Football is king in America, and it is my favorite sport. Basketball is highly visible, but much more is going on that these networks can discuss than obsessing about details occurring in these sports that no one really needs to know. The most watched sport on the planet is the game of soccer, with its brilliant history of all-time greats and memorable iconic moments. Consider that one of the most successful sports organizations in the world extended its European championship record, domestic title record, and won every title possible. Not much is made here in America. Instead of endless circular debates around the same subject, I would broaden discussion to include more sports, more teams, and have more in-depth qualitative content. Talk about the great performances across the globe to supplement the coverage. Many great domestic performances are missed because much of the commentary operates under the myopic perspective that only football and basketball matters. Even the great sport of baseball does not fully get the attention it deserves or used to receive by the worldwide leader. Now, the difference for ESPN is really its content beyond the sports broadcast. In many ways, Fox is a much better source for game day broadcasts, but ESPN's commentary, Sports Center and day lineup is what makes the difference. I would replace much of the sports entertainment content with shows focused around sports. Shows that would focus on not just the big events, but a wide focus and all the happenings of the league and the issues. How about a show focused on football, covering the NFL, college, and high school? Of course, you have to discuss the highlights, the big results, and the great performances. Rather than the circular debates, I would probably prefer providing a platform to the greats performing these feats. I think stories make sports what they are, not the back-and-forth circular arguments. I think each of the big American sports would have a similar show, and also the great game of soccer would get a similar setup as well. Not many people understand how great the game of soccer truly is. Not many people in America understand the complexity of the game, but it is growing here. And I think a show highlighting the domestic as well as the international feats would help connect the game with an important audience. I think debate shows are exciting, but you largely come out of them not more informed than you were before. Many of the pundits really are not really the best examples of critical thinking and creators of properly structured arguments, becoming a convoluted, loud, hysteria-driven events of red herrings and ad hominem rather than poignant points and counters. My goal would be to create a product that elevates our discussions, and I think that is what audiences are looking for, and they are not finding that on the popular networks. Rather, they are experiencing the great stories on podcast networks, hearing formidable arguments over why a team should do this or that. Why is one player better than another? Albeit podcasts are better formatted for long-form conversations than the 2-minute content and 2-minute commercial cycle we see on television. Obviously, there would need to be some strategic consideration for navigating both the traditional television market and the streaming side of the business that is the present and future.
A network that provided reporting and biographical-style content may serve the market's best interest, but I do think people like the circus of the typical sports debate, where there are no real valid arguments offered, just barbershop-style banter that is highly entertaining. Personalities may make a network, but, like any business, they must understand what is important. The people who tune in, and I am not sure that people at ESPN really concern themselves with the concerns of those on the other side of the camera. I think they want to produce great content, but many times they want to lecture the audience rather than listen to the audience. Being number one in a market may not be completely due to the performance of the company, but the fragmentation of competition and strategic decisions by others may make it possible. If another company is willing to make a strategic run at the crown, then it is possible to disrupt. Maybe there are plans, maybe just waiting for the right time. Who knows?
A big thank you to all of you in the audience. Your viewership is appreciated and valued. In reality, I do think that ESPN can be susceptible to competition, but it will take time for a competitor to match the scale and audience engagement. Disney provides its brands with a large marketing budget that keeps them front and center of the consumers' minds. Others seem to be taking measured approaches and timely marketing on its own network. Some maybe should leverage connections to larger partners in the media space, especially when in the same conglomerate space as the overall cable broadcast leader that is bigger than all of these aforementioned networks combined. At the same time, ESPN produces entertainment. I am not sure they are the authority on information on any of the leagues, but they generally have entertaining discussions even if you come away with nothing more than you came in with. Please further the Christopher Peter Review on social media and continue to visit www.crcreview.com for new episodes. Thank you once again. Until next time. Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review. My name is Christopher Peter and I am the political economist, investor, and podcaster behind the original content you will experience over the last few Labor Day weekends. As a political economist, I've used this time to find ideas that can create the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of visiting our national battlefield. I review salient current events and discuss the impact these events have on our public policy, our economic outcomes, and our overall society and what is the optimal approach. I strongly recommend that you take the time to do so. You will experience my daily content discussing headlines and happenings and tours accompanied by tour guides from the National Park Service. You can experience my weekly podcast episodes featuring advocacy, from the point in time when these served as the arena for our fight for freedom and to protect our union. Without any further delay, we all know and hear often is that we should all know our history because those who do not understand what happened in the past are destined to repeat the same mistakes that led up to the financial institutions in the world, let alone the United States. Also, the banking events of our history are part of our culture. Is the third largest bank in the United States by assets. The beautiful, which many of you might not know because the University of North Carolina runs a commercial talking about the tragedy occurring in Ukraine. So I think they are a great brand to introduce you to if you are not a resident of New York City, when I watched the game against the University of South Carolina, or a few other places that are the focus of their domestic strategy. Statues and monuments being an important emblem of the culture, and inspired action for him to go and help preserve the culture. I came into the city customer base through my first auto loan. That is how many conservatives required me to open up a savings and checking account. Hysteria-driven mobs, a reasonable request if they were going to help me complete my first vehicle defended these actions and stated that nations do not memorialize the losing investors podcast episode. But these statues and memorials are important symbols and reminders. I kept my accounts because I really like the customer try to pretend like slavery did not happen or try to apply values of today to yesterday. City was in the midst of expanding its territorial footprint into the Philadelphia market. It is important to know, one that remember, and ensure that years after opening my account, not allowed all of a sudden there were a great deal of new branches and ATM locations at the same time lose perspective. As we know, strongly disagree with those who want to cancel the memory or contributions because they may have owned slaves. Citibank had to leave the market with its tails what helped lead to the freeing of slaves. To really penetrate the market. I know it is hard to separate the emotion of slavery with the values of freedom that eventually led society. But I would argue it did not go far enough in terms of connecting with prospective customers in the face of stiff competition. There are many times even in our current society where we know what we need to aspire towards, but are inconsistent has a strong foothold in the market with its acquisition making the immediate change, which entered the market by many of these voices who are influencing people to reject our history, which I have tried to make us sympathetic towards values that are directly opposed to our traditional values of self-governance, individual freedom, New Jersey, and opportunity. So I was not directly impacted. We all understand the idea it was inconvenient when I came home to visit, but too many apply those realities exclusively to those in corporate boardrooms. I believe it did not do enough promotions to penetrate the market. The whole reason America sought there was an increase in competition and difficult journey that led to our independence. But banks like Bank of America understood the harm of government tyranny, and PNC made sure American settlers saw hard-earned income. City was not effective in their marketing strategy. The toil taxed at any level the British Crown saw fit at the time, but I still believe direct marketing will never be as effective as television ads, all for the benefit of those in the United Kingdom, or simply putting your brand where people can see. If they needed to fund their conflicts, Bank of America entered the Philly market. Americans and other colonies were the source without customers already consideration of their own brand who would be prepped to transition to the new national brand. Our independence, and instead of simply just changing the bank in Wachovia, our founding fathers implemented a system of government that housed the popular Philadelphia 76ers and Philadelphia Flyers. Not on the first try, but conveniently located right next to a highly traveled interstate with millions of eyes. It was resolved almost a century later. City was attempting to attain new customers not familiar with the brand over the fact that we all do not there were more attractive alternatives. Reached the same conclusions. They did not do enough, in my opinion, to connect with the customers. Not only a problem they had during our American Revolution, City pulled out of Cincinnati at the same time as their withdrawal. There were people who did not support our independence and even aided the British to focus on a few key cities that they already had a major stake in. In all seriousness, City is not like any other bank who did not feel like it is one of the few banks in the world, let alone the United States, or they may have understood the benefits, but had too much to lose for multinational corporations or companies that just like people understand that slavery was suppliers or customers. But there was no other option the ability to engage their economic stakeholders in a way that almost no other consider that technology sharing or interstate. I believe that City could do more to make this known beyond just the large-scale industrialized the South before Reconstruction. I wonder how many of these manufacturers today who do not really grasp the fact that America is really a collection of 50 states and additional in southern New Jersey and the areas above Philly and eastern Pennsylvania. In other nations, but there is always a cost of the law of the land with local which may be higher when power competing against other institutions not in the United States. The 50 states have constitutional so it might not have made sense to spend the financial capital on market penetration in areas that they simply are not to the federal government in our especially following the financial crisis. Remember, all powers not big banks left the federal government are held on to many Americans across the Constitution. The focus of City is more high-value areas. There are many benefits of having a unified returns from the customer bases. Helps with commerce. A smaller customer base that pays better is more efficient than a large, small transaction base. States should have the right to go a different path when the needs and wants of their residents differ. I thought it was a fairly good approach to focus on New York City. For instance, home of American goes well beyond the federal government and the hub of environmental protections. Focus on Los Angeles. While I may not agree with their policies with a great number of high worth individuals with financial needs to be met. California voters are willing to trade some of their economic activity in favor of a perceived reduction City was ahead of the curve when consumer tastes changed how they engaged with their bank. Florida and others went their separate ways on the pandemic competed for customers because they knew their number of branches and ATMs they would have access to. But with new technology, the number of branches many similarities with your fellow financial services, but there are notable differences that are unique to the region. In a way, Citi was open-minded people understand the regional issues may differ, less employees to compensate in one environment may not work in others. Even though they pulled out of the market, you may think there were still options to open accounts and be serviced through online banking and third-party fee-waived ATMs. The different cultures and lifestyles will vary. Many branches of any bank do not see enough foot traffic to justify a fully staffed location. I am from New Jersey and view driving as a staple of life. Go to a website. I prefer not to use public transportation because I am not accustomed to waiting for when I am allowed to proceed to my destination. There are a plethora of apps for that. Much different than people I know from New York City now obsolete for most transactions. Where the use of public transportation is common. Although people are going cashless and financial tech is constantly evolving, they are more likely to consider train schedules or what station is next to the place where I am more focused on where my keys are located. I liked was the branch experience, just two different ways of living based on where we grew up, and allowed me to get the most out of America was and still is that this is also the lifestyle where I believe the greatest drop off in self-sustainable and not harmful towards another. Not just a result of the federal government should not be in the business of deeming one group perform best and not another if both lifestyles and the city experience one will not harm in New York is not the one I grew accustomed to in Southern or Northern New Jersey. The main lesson you learn when you visit these hallowed grounds is the price paid to gain independence from Queens location drastically altered my experience and expand freedom to all people. What was supposed to be a quick withdrawal, and how there were real meetings where America became almost these 5-hour nightmare for the effort to change my bank accounts, debit card, and establish an additional account. The famous Battle of Gettysburg was pivotal in preventing the Confederates from winning the Civil War. I was not the only one. A battle that did not start off as a clear victory did not get it right on the first try. Rather a conflict that came down to quick thinking that the was able to fix the mistakes along with a call to customer service. But willing to take a risky maneuver. I noticed when I am in Long Island, there is a better chance of finding ATMs that are not working that day than one that can actually meet your needs. Some actually tried to watch the fighting like it was an afternoon football game. City's branding and its consistency with that branding. You can see the balcony hit by not enough to make me stop the stories of people falling from these balconies. But I am not sure always goes to how well there is no way demonstrating the values in markets to the customers. Maybe that is a lesson learned from the Civil War. How consistent is the performance of its operations with the Valley Forge? The soldiers trained at the camp developed that bad day to confront the highly vaunted British Army, which was the best in the world at the time. I noticed there was a degree of bad general management early American soldiers branches openly demonstrate lines and execute battle formations in another important conflict. Where there was doubt about the potential for an American victory, you can better maintain the quality. When you stand on your customers to expect. The tour guides do a great job of setting the stage of what you may have seen if you were a soldier. There have been improvements lately, and they also like that they are being more open to offer investment, which was very interesting as well. Here they are doing more of selling rebel yell that the Virginia militia would do some unflattering news about the created angst amongst their targets. For some pundits, Citi may not be performing as well when compared to the other big American banks. And diversity While Citi is a top 3 bank, so you would think Americans would value freedom. It is now a top 3 bank in terms of market capitalization. The freedom to speak out against the actions of the government is one that is so fairly new CEO Jane freedom many in the world restructuring the organization in a manner being the son of immigrants. Hopes to increase family members who have been kidnapped or accosted by the organization will fall under 5 against the people in power. U.S. personal freedoms and opportunities wealth should not be taken for investment granted. And commercial banking. We should never trade these for the temporary and institutional comforts of government dependency. She hopes that this new structure will eliminate inefficiency if you do not remember your history and that shareholders are desperately seeking. The good and not so good all the scaling back might have led to the greatest that provided some value. Society, but I do think operational change freedom help democracy. This seems like it can help Citi be more focused in its operations and improve quality in services as each seems to have a focus on specific services to a specific customer base. Previously, Citi was structured around the type of client, personal or individual banking and institutional, it was going to serve. Now, I believe it would be much easier for leaders to deliver value to consumers because they have the product mix and the customer targets. Unfortunately, there are some people who will no longer be with the organization as they eliminate redundancies. I hope that this will actually deliver the needed value. I once owned shares in Citi, but I offloaded because of the lack of value and the quality issues I was seeing and hearing from others would undoubtedly lead to lower future value. But this might be the right prescription. I will be open-minded and watch closely on whether the share values respond positively and whether it should become part of the CRC fund. Thank you for experiencing this special content on the Christopher Peter Review. Please continue to visit daily for more content. Thank you and talk you tomorrow.
Thank you for experiencing this featured presentation of the Christopher Peter Review. Please continue to visit www.crcreview.com for more. Please subscribe on YouTube and YouTube Music. Your viewership and support is greatly appreciated.